Hi guys, welcome to the video. Welcome to Coventry in the Midlands in the UK, and welcome to this beauty here. This is the Piper PA-28-161 Warrior 2 from Just Flight / Thranda, and this is the X-Plane 12 version, which is due for release tomorrow or maybe the day after, Friday maybe. So the first thing I'm going to say is a huge thank you to Just Flight for allowing me to have a look at the pre-release version of it. Now they have gone and said that fundamentally it is the release version. They're not anticipating making any changes between now and tomorrow. Next thing I'm going to do is, well, we're going to take it for a flight. We're going to have a look at the outside, the inside, as if we were doing a review, and then we're going to see what we think of the aircraft. Just going to bring the web page over. As you can see, it's X-Plane 12. However, it's not just simply an X-Plane 11 version updated for X-Plane 12. They've gone beyond that, which I think is really beneficial. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention is I don't know the price, but I would imagine, given the fact that pretty much all their other products, except weirdly the P3D edition, is £30.49. So I think it would be unusual for them to break that that pattern. But as I say, I don't know the actual price, but I would imagine it's going to be in that ballpark. Right. The web page, I always have a look at them these days because they always contain lots of information hidden away in little lines. So obviously you've got the things they want to shout about: PBR, materials, real-time environment reflections, etc. There is some gorgeous lighting in X-Plane 12, it has to be said. Accurately modelled Warrior 2, but where's the sentence gone? Right. This sentence, or this paragraph here, for me, is the single most important statement in the whole lot of it. To take advantage of the improvements of the X-Plane to the X-Plane 12 engine, fine. The flight model has been rebuilt with scratch-built aerofoils to match real-world data and refined fuselage and control surface geometry, meaning the aircraft will perform even closer to real-world counterpart. That's important for me because in effect, what they've done is they've gone, right, okay, let's make X-Plane 12 work to earn its living here, and they've literally gone back to basics. So they've not used any previous informational material. They've not carried it through. They've literally scratch built it and completely rebuilt it, in effect from the ground up, which for me makes this fascinating. Now, X-Plane 12, given the way it handles aerodynamics and flight and, you know, all of that stuff, that good stuff, that for me means that this is an interesting add-on. Is it any good? Well, we wait to see. Now, the only caveat I'm going to add into this, that I've recently managed to get myself a force feedback joystick. So my experience in terms of handling it may not be entirely what I want at the moment, because in effect I haven't necessarily got it dialed in how I want it to be. For those who are interested, it's a Moser force feedback stick. So I might well do a review. Drop me a comment in the drop me a note in the comments below if you do want me to do a review of the Moser stick. But I'm still finding my feet with it, and lots of people are shouting, you know, this is awesome, etc. But I'm on the fence at the minute, shall we say. Right, back to the case in point. Warrior 2, it's a very basic aircraft. Most people in the UK who've been involved in flight training will have flown one, or general aviation across the world, I would suggest. It's a very common airframe, very common aircraft, still to be in service at this point in time. And it's fundamentally one of the most basic. The Warrior is one of the most basic. So it's a fixed pitch prop. I'm not sure if it's a cruise or a climb prop that's modelled, because you can get two different sorts of props for these things. But obviously it's fixed gear, fixed pitch. It's called a simple single engine piston aircraft for the UK training side of things. And we'll have a look at the outside. But what we're going to do is we're going to take it on a little flight, or at least I am. It won't necessarily be the case that you guys will want to sit and watch me fly straight and level for the next 40 minutes. But let me just drag little nav map over, and I'll show you where I'm going. So we are down here at Coventry. This is probably one of the best apps you can get for flight sim, if I'm honest. It's outstanding. So we're going down here from Coventry. We're going to head across to Draycott Water, which is a waypoint quite commonly used by those flying out of Coventry, because it gets you out clear of the airspace. You can do your general handling here, etc., do some navigation. Then we're going to go up around the south of Kettering, where I am, and then from there we're going to go up to Fenland. And the reason I'm going to Fenland is it's my nemesis airfield. Long story short, very low in hours, had a PA-28 on hire, was doing a route from literally from Coventry to Fenland down to Terweston to go to the Silverstone Formula 1 Grand Prix with my dad. Came back, did the return route. However, on the outbound route, I didn't get my approach correct, and I got a little bit too close to going off the far end of the runway. So we're going to try and see if we can slay that demon today as well. But I've got a healthy amount of respect for relatively short fields with aircraft that aren't particularly draggy with their flaps, shall we say. So, you know, Cessna's higher wing aircraft, they tend to have less of an issue with ground effect, so they'll tend to settle down that little bit quicker, in my opinion, than say a PA-28. PA-28 for me, I always found them, their flaps weren't that effective and they tended to float a little bit on landing unless you got the speed right. And that's the problem I think I had up here, is I think I just carried too much speed in. But we'll see how we get on today. So that's the route I'm going to fly. There's a couple of things you need to be aware of in terms of simple things for the avionics. I do have the Fenland chart available to me, so let's just get that up. Ready so that I've got it beside me. But this is by the by, really. This is the runway we're going to use, so it's runway 18. It comes over a low fence and a road here. Fenland is completely flat. As you can see, I think it's 6 feet above ground, so above sea level, something like that. Yeah, aerodrome elevation 6 feet, but it's flat as a pancake, and finding this place in real life is an absolute nightmare. But as I say, that's by the by. Let's have a look at the aircraft then. So as I say, some sims do things better than other things. And as I say, my focus with X-Plane has always been handling and aerodynamics. However, they do some good modelling. And I like a lot of the aircraft that are modelled. So the Unibuild's A300 and A310 came through X-Plane first. And, you know, I absolutely love those aircraft. But let's have a look at what we're looking at here. Oh. Have I got the right mode for the camera here? Is this the one I want? Yeah, this is the one I want. So, she's never going to win any beauty prizes as a design. However, she's massively functional. This thing is an absolute fantastic gem in the aviation world for just how reliable and how stable they are. And you can see, actually, if I just bring it round a little bit more, zoom out a bit, you can see huge dihedral here. Huge dihedral in terms of having stability in roll. Absolutely awesome for that. Likewise, if I bring it round and if I go up, you can see it's got the later wings. So the early Hershey bar wings were literally rectangular planks sticking out the side. This has got a leading edge extension towards the fuselage, and then you can see these wings taper slightly, so narrower here or shorter chord here, wider chord here. So that was a development for the later versions of the aircraft. Well, I say later versions, the vast majority have this wing plan form. It's only the early ones that had the Hershey bar wing. But it's really nicely modelled. In terms of 3D modelling, it just looks great. Looks absolutely great. Zooming in right close, you can see that curves are curvy. There's a few bits of straight lining, so if I zoom in here, you'll just see a couple of them coming up here. But the textures are good. It looks well used, but still well loved. The dirt coming off the edge of the cowling here is particularly nice. Props very nicely modelled. And generally the fuselage is very nicely modelled as well. Over the wing roots with the fillets, very nicely done. It's the sort of place where you sometimes get straight lining. We've got none here really to speak of. There's a tiny bit there, but that's to be expected. And lighting and gloss use of PBR, for example, very nice. The wings look dimpled, which is how they are in real life with all the riveting. It's pretty much there. It's pretty bang on, to be honest, in terms of modelling. It's a very thick wing profile. It's not designed for speed, this thing. It's designed for high lift. And it does have plenty of that, to be fair to it. Around the glass area, around the glazing, very nicely done. Outside air temperature probe looks very good, modelled in 3D. Little hatches modelled in 3D. Rivet lines. Hinges for the cowling are raised, so you can see those. You can't unfortunately open the cowling that I'm aware of, but that would be nice if it could have been done. Coming around to the prop. Back off a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Hartzell prop. As I say, fixed pitch. Don't know if it's cruise or climb pitch that they've modelled it on, but either way, it's there. It's going to take us off the ground, hopefully. Couple of things that I've noticed with the undercarriage. So we'll go down here, particularly, in fact, if I do this. So the PBR texturing is really nice. We've got a sort of matte effect here on the tyre, slightly satiny here, very metallic effect on the oleo leg, but the textures aren't as great as we've seen in some other sims. And actually you can see there's like a joint line in the texture here. So it's functional and effective. We've got the brake pipe going through the bottom of the fairing here. Not sure what it's going to be like on the other side. Something that I've noticed is missing is creep marks. So tyres have creep marks and wheels have creep marks. What you have is a red mark on the tyre and a red mark on the wheel. Because obviously when you have landing and you spin the wheels up very quickly, so they're stationary and all of a sudden they're going 60, 80, 90 mile an hour, whatever it might be, there's a tendency for the tyre to creep round the rim. And if you get to the point where there's no overlap between the wheel and the tyre, that's when you'd say, no, I can't take this aircraft anymore. But we haven't got the tyre markings. Now, whether it was on the model that was, or the aircraft that was the model was based on, I don't know. But it's something that should be there, should be present. Having said that, the rest of the 3D modelling is divine, and the texturing is divine. Look at how thick that wing root in that cord is. Massive. Absolutely massive. Just absolutely fantastic. There we go, that's better. The animations are nice and smooth as well, so if I start to wiggle things around, I would have liked to have heard a clunk at the end of the aileron travel. Likewise with the moving tailplane. However, there's sounds for the flaps. I'm not keen on the fact that if I keep trying to lower the flaps, it keeps clicking, but the flaps themselves don't move. And obviously the lever in the cockpit won't be moving, so you wouldn't expect to get that noise, which is a shame. As I say, all flying tailplane on one of these aircraft. It has anti-balance tabs. It has me doing the wrong thing. Right, here we go. I can do it from here. It has anti-balance tabs. So what that means is that if I pull back, you'll see that the tab goes up. And if it goes down, the tab correspondingly goes down. And that's due to the all-flying tail, the flying tailplane. And that's how that works. And obviously you've got your rudders which move nice and smoothly. But again, no sounds on reaching the end of the movement and travel. But overall, it's a really nice model. I think it's very nicely done. I think the use of PBR is very well done. Things like the aerials, etc., are very, decent external 3D objects. Things like the texturing has been nicely done. Has this been modelled as 3D or a texture? We'll soon find out. Oh, it's been modelled as 3D. Great. That's what we want to see. Because these indentations are to reinforce and strengthen the panel. Right. Having done the outside, let's have a look at the inside. So the first thing you'll see is that we've got a hunking great big EFB here. Now, Just Flight have been continuing to develop their EFB. You can see we're in the Warrior for X-Plane 12. This is version 1. But they've been continuing to develop them, and there's a lot of consistency between all of them across all of their sims now, across all of their add-ons, certainly in general aviation. So they're pretty familiar if you've got any of their other aircraft that use an EFB. And obviously this is the latest version of it. But you can go to aircraft, you can change all the various options here. We are going to remove the tie downs and chocks, otherwise we're not going to get very far. And don't ask me how, I know. Now the window reflections I keep on and the instrument reflections I keep on, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, the window reflections are really intrusive if you're low down, if you're low flying. On X-Plane 12, absolutely fine, really like them. You can open the cabin door, pilot window and the baggage door should you wish. So the pilot window is this little window here. You can also obviously operate them by as such. Come on. And then it's the traditional Piper locking mechanism of the two latches, one there and one at the top. Ended up stuck in one of these, wasn't great because this latch broke on the inside, so yeah, that wasn't embarrassing at all, was it? Not in a rental aircraft. No, God, no, that's not embarrassing. Right. So let's have a look around the inside. It's really nicely modelled in 3D. There's not a lot to click on. It's very functional is the best way of describing it. We've got some lovely 1970s velour velvet seats, very nicely done. Some lovely texturing in terms of the modelling of the straps, etc. And the fabric looks very, very well done to me. The only thing I would say is that the cabin is very limited, so there's nothing in here really that's of note. It's just literally the modelling of the seats and then your certificate of airworthiness at the back, but there's nothing to interact with. I know it's been the trend more often than not in recent aircraft, so it doesn't really bother me because I tend to sit in this seat and do everything here. However, obviously I just need to make you aware of that. Other than that, the panel and the controls are really well modelled. Just fantastically done. Let's just get these out of the way. Oh, I'll mention the EFB as well. Oh, we were on the EFB. Let's go back to this. I'm losing track. The EFB, obviously you've got all the various things that you can do with it. So your aircraft options we just went through. Weight and balance, you can change your weight and balance here. So you can just set everything up as you want, and you can save and load configurations if you want particular configurations in future. Instrument options, you can change the navigation instruments. I tend to, well, the Century 4 pop-up might be useful. I don't tend to fly with that. That might be useful. GTN 750 integration. I haven't got my GTN up and running at the minute, so that's a shame, but the GNS 530 pop-up is potentially useful. And I say useful because at the end of the day, it's not always convenient in a sim because you haven't got peripheral vision to have a look down here. It's very easy to get yourself into an unusual attitude doing that. Engine configuration. Exactly as you see here, it will show you how much fuel you've used or you've got an imbalance of. You can refill all sorts of various things. You can recharge the battery, simulate spark plug fouling. It's a relatively basic level compared to some aircraft, but at least it's there. It is functional. I do enjoy it, to be honest. You can change static liveries on the fly. You can also change the amount of dirt on it, but I quite like this aircraft, so I'll stick with that. Configuration, there's a few things to configure. I've just dialed down the Dynafeel intensity, so this is the kind of how it responds to the surroundings, really is the best way of describing it, and how much you have to fight with the aircraft really to get it to do what you want is my best description of it. It's probably an awful description, but that's how I feel. Auto fuel switching, the PA-28s, all of them have fuel in left, and right tanks, but they're not connected, so you have to draw fuel from left and then right and then left and then right and so on. And we used to change side every half an hour or as necessary by the Thranda check. So if you were running too much of an imbalance, you would just start using the other tank. So yeah, engine's running. If you want to start with your engine running, you can do. Where we got to? There's logbook if you wanted to record all your flights, which is basically the default X-plane logbook. Checklist. It's a decent checklist. I think it's a pretty decent checklist. To be fair, these aircraft aren't that difficult in real life anyway, so I'm not going to bother with that today. Highly unprofessional. Ground handling, you can move the aircraft around if you want. Dynamic liveries, this is basically create your own livery should you wish to do so. It's quite good fun. But we'll leave that for another day. And then the flight computer is probably the most useful bit of the whole thing, really, for me, because once you've got all your setup stuff done, really it comes down to having something that's practical in the cockpit, and this is great for it. Gives you all the information about the outside air, etc. Really, really good. So, whilst we're at it, we're also going to mention the documentation, because you may need some of the information from the documentation in terms of your performance. Now, Just Flight historically have always been good with documentation. So let's bring this over. I like their documentation. As I say, I find it to be set at a nice level, so it's got enough information, but it's not overwhelming. You know, we used to have days where you would get the documentation would be a copy of the FCOM for an airliner. It'd be like, whoa, is this all I've got? You know, difficult to read through, lots of information. Just Flight do it in a really nice fashion. I really like and appreciate the way they do it, but they've got the information all about the EFB. Now, as I say, the EFB is an ongoing development, so it's been present in a lot of their aircraft previously, and what's happened is they've just kept developing it as they've gone through. But you can see there's quite a lot. This is just for the EFB, so there's quite a lot of information just on that alone, which is great. It's worth paying attention to and having a quick read. The actual operating manual, it's, as I say, it's pitched at that right level of detail for me. The only thing it hasn't got that I can see is the actual VR. So I wonder if that's in the other performance documents. But as I say, you can see there's an awful lot. It tells you all about the information to do with the aircraft. Has it got anything for it? Not that I can see at the moment. I'm just having a quick flick through. But it tells you all about the panel, all about the instruments, tells you about the Century Autopilot as well. You can change the various layouts of instrumentation as well, which is good. I mean, it's a PA-28, so it's not going to be rocket science, but they've done a really nice job of documenting it. So if you're not that familiar with flight simulation and aviation, this is a great starter for me. ADF, so it's got... ADF isn't something that's used that much these days, but ironically Finland has an ADF, or did have back in the day. Whether they've still got it with the fact that everything has GPS now, I don't know. But that helped me find the airfield. A bit about the autopilot, and then we get into operation, i.e. checklists and procedures, and there's an awful lot here, and I particularly like this bit. Most companies don't do this now. They used to. I even remember PMDG with their 737 doing a tutorial flight. But this is great because it gives you all the information that you're going to need to know in order to do a flight. So as you can see here, they've got from one airfield to another. They've got VORs that you're going to need to tune. They've also got ADFs in here. So they've chosen a route that allows you to examine the aircraft, which is great. They then go through how to start it, how to set it all up, how to do the navigation. It's a really useful thing. And one of the advantages is that compared to a YouTube tutorial, I find that reading and doing tends to sink in a little bit more. You know, it's a really lovely thing. I love tutorials that are something that you can sit and read through rather than scrolling up and down on a screen. And obviously the advantage, if you've only got one screen, it's a pain because you have to alt-tab between the sim and YouTube, whereas this, you can actually have this printed off, if you wish, next to you. Best rate of climb, max flap speed. Yeah, you see, still hasn't got the best, still hasn't got the rotate speed, has it? So I've got it down here, engine starting, before takeoff, line up, flaps trim, accelerate, short field, well, we're not doing short field, accelerate to 52 short field, oh here we go, no, accelerate 40 to 55, that's a very low takeoff speed. Oh, we'll have a go, 40 to 55, that's a wide range as well, 15 knots, whew. Well, we'll see how we get on. But as I say, it's not a rocket science type of aircraft. You've got the emergency procedures. You get the idea. And then finally, you've got the operations data manual, which is literally all that you need in terms of your takeoff, cruise and landing performance in various configurations. So there's a lot of information there for a relatively simple aircraft, which is just fantastic to see, particularly the tutorial. I like the tutorial. So big thumbs up there for me. Right. So we've gone through that, we've gone through the manuals, we've gone through the paperwork. Let's have a look around the cockpit. 3D modelling to start with, done to a very high standard. I think they've done an excellent job. If I go right into the panels, you can see that they've laid it up with the various elements, the face of the dial, the needle on top, the signifier here, inset to this bezel here, which is again inset to the panel. So you've got a good 3 or 4 levels or layers of sort of detail or work gone on there. Don't know quite why we've gone outside. Weird. If I zoom in, you can see that these two controls, for example, they have completely different textures on the end. It's not the same texture, so it's nice attention to detail. The depth here with this needle that actually goes inside the instrument here, as opposed to, it's not just over the top, it actually goes into part of the instrument, which is really nice. Textures, if you get close in, are a little bit sort of start to lose their accuracy or their fidelity, their cleanliness, if you like, of the edge of the image, but overall done to a really nice standard, modelled to an excellent degree in terms of depth. You can see how well the lighting works with it. Yeah, just really nicely modelled in 3D. Textures are very good. You know, if anyone who's ever flown a PA-28 will instantly recognise this cockpit. It's such a unique cockpit. One of the things I would say is I feel that this is your wheel brake. I can take it off, but I seem to remember that the real thing might have slightly more movement than that, but I will trust Just Flight that they've got that right. Rudder trim here, which I actually barely used in real life. Flap lever here. Yeah, it's a cool and groovy aircraft for me. I've got a lot of good memories of flying these. A lot of good memories. Super stable aircraft. Super stable aircraft. I've just operated a circuit breaker that I didn't want to operate, so let's go and see what I've just clicked. Which brings me neatly onto the fact that the circuit breakers are active. And then hidden all the way around here is your avionics power switch. So there's an emergency bus switch for the avionics. Didn't have that in the aircraft I flew. But every aircraft of this vintage tends to be different in one way, shape or another. They've all obviously got common elements, but the panels by this time in their lives have had so many owners and so many adjustments and changes and modifications. It's ridiculous. But there we go. So that's the panel. You can, by the way, change the position of this. If you click on the bottom of the bezel, it will go to a different location, 4 locations. Have a guess where the next one is. That's right, it's down here. And then the final one, it'll pop up on the other side here, but I'm not going to bother about that today. We're just going to leave it as it is. Now, in terms of starting these things up, they're pretty easy. Now, one of the things, as I say, I've already got to the point where I've noticed I don't like that. I'll be brutally honest here. Don't like that. Yeah, the sounds are they're quite good. Quite like the sounds. The only thing I don't like is this fact that you can You see it's not even doing the button animation. Yeah, that's a blech for me. I don't like it. You know, it may well be the fact that that's the noise that they've got in real life. I think the sort of plink noise is true to life, but I'm not sure about the blink, the bunk noise. I don't know how to describe it, but that's how I would describe it. So let's get some power on this thing and get airborne and see what we think. So usual blah blah blah. Make sure that's off. Fuel's off at the moment. Everything else is off. We're just going to stick battery and alternator on. You can see we've now got the low voltage light illuminated. If it's off for whatever reason, but the power's on, if it's off because you've got enough voltage, you can press it to just check that the light is working. I will also add, by the way, that the gyro needs to be set up because I don't think it drifts per se, but you will find that if you don't set it up, it won't match this, your E2B direct reading compass. So let's just get some juice going with this thing. We'll just pop the, and yes, I'm not following the checklist. Mixture fully rich. We'll just crack the throttle a bit, and then 1, 2, 3, and then slowly close it back. That will hopefully be enough for us to get started. Actually, it won't be at all because we didn't do the fuel. How much fuel have we got in each tank? This is interesting. I've obviously been flying it and it's got persistent memory for the tanks. So let's get the EFB up. Let's move it across to where I want it. And let's stick some fuel in the old girl, shall we? Weight and balance. You can see the aircraft moving as well. That's nice. Watch it bouncing around with this. Right, we'll stick 30 in each side. That's going to be more than enough for what we want today. If you want to put cargo in, you can just scroll with your mouse wheel. If you want to change the passengers, you can scroll with your mouse wheel. So, and you can see the airframe moves around as you're doing that. So that's that done. We should have some fuel now down here. Go away. And we'll just click that. We'll hide it. It's actually attached to this yoke now, but obviously because we can't see the yoke, it's not there. We'll get rid of that one as well. So how are we doing for fuel? Oh, that's much better. That looks much healthier. So we're on the left tank to start with. Everything else is fine. It should hopefully start, which is fingers crossed time. Nice, 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 nice sounds. Just set it to 1,000 to warm up. Okay, trying not to deafen myself. There we go. That's a nice feature, I like that. Okay, so we haven't done it in accordance with the textbook, but let's just stick this to altitude. Avionics we set are over here, so let's just go and switch them on. Of course, being X-plane, it instantly brings up your GPS. No loading times for that. We should have had the fuel pump on, but we'll have it on anyway now. Anti-collision should have gone on. We'll have the pitot heat on because it's not particularly warm outside. And there we go. That should have the nav lights on, and instrument lights will put a touch on. So beautiful. She's up and running. Whilst the temperature is sorting itself out, because it's still, the oil temperature is still a bit too low at the moment, we'll have a talk about the flight dynamics. So obviously, given the fact that it's a low wing, but it's got quite a thick chord, it's not going to be a particularly speedy aircraft, but it should have relatively docile handling characteristics throughout. So I'm hoping that we get a docile, well-behaved, enjoyable to fly, non-complex aircraft. Right, let's just come down here. We need to stick the DME on, finish what we're doing. There we go. Pop that on. We don't want voice on the nav at the minute. That's on. We'll pop the ADF on, although we're not going to use it. Right. That's sorted. That's sorted. How are we doing with the engine temperature? The oil temperature's just coming up to the bottom of the green, so I'm happy with that to go. As long as we're not going to blow things up as we taxi around, that's absolutely fine. And she's trundling along at 1000 RPM, which is fantastic. And ground handling, I mean, these things are quite straightforward to steer around on the ground. Ground handling's very nice, very positive, a little bit of inertia to it, so if I take my foot off the pedal now, you can see it still swings right. Very nice, straightforward and accurate, as I say, with a little bit of inertia just to keep you on your toes. So if I kick full left now and then stop, and although it's not a castering nose wheel, you are still going to end up with some inertia in these things. Just bring it back round. I mean, there's so much fun to be had in GA aircraft. Low and slow, you get to see the terrain. True Earth England is great for that in X-Plane or Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Go low and slow. Don't go airliner. Have some fun, see the world, see the terrain. I'm just ignoring all of the usual ATC that you'd have to go through. Got better things to do in my time than that. Right, pop that on, hopefully it'll hold. I'll set at 1700. There we go. So I'm just going to come down here. It wasn't on both, there we go, never mind. So, left, we've got a drop, right, restores, 2 to the left, got drop, restores, both within, is it 100, 125, something like that they had to be. Carb heat. Now the carb heat is awkward to get to from a sim perspective, probably worth setting a button for it. We've got drop and it restores. We haven't got wobbly props, we're alright for that, so we'll just bring it back to idle, make sure it retains its idle and it doesn't stall. And that's as good to go, I fear. We'll take a stage of flat. Take the brakes off. And we're supposed to rotate between 40 and 55. I'll probably go with 55 because we'll be a bit more likely to fly, even though we're quite light. As I say, ground handling's nice. Now, I've had an issue with my joystick previously where it tried to throw me off the side of the runway, so hopefully we'll be able to maintain ourselves nice and straight. Wants to pull us off to the left, so right, so a bit of left pedal. Sorry, wants to pull us to the left, so a bit of right pedal. Nice and stable. Rotate, come on, there we go. Now the sound in the aircraft has gone very quiet. So I'm actually going to put that back on. So we've got some ambient noise. Trimmy, trim, trim, trim. Bit bouncy on the nose, very sensitive. That may, however, be my controls as opposed to the sim. And we'll bring it round to the right now. Well, you know what we didn't do? We didn't set our DI. We mentioned it and didn't set it. So my first leg is down towards Draycott Water, so whilst we're going down there I will faff around with that, which is going to be sort of over this way. You can generally see it not long after you take off from Coventry. But what I do need to do, try and get that relatively wings level. Come over here. What are we on? 0.095 really. What we've got there looks like it's about 0.95, so that'll do me. And we need, for our first leg, to head down to Draycott Water, which is on about 0.80, no, 120, something like that. There we go. And she's a peach to fly. Very stable, hands off, in the climb. Typical for this sort of aircraft. Absolutely beautiful. Lovely training aircraft these things are. Lovely training aircraft. And certainly when I was doing my training I flew them all over the place. As I say, Fenland was the one that gave me squeaky bum time. That wasn't a particularly enjoyable landing and approach. The thing is, there's part of my training I had a very old and bold retired RAF Jaguar conversion unit wing commander. Did some of my first early days of flying training when I was in the Navy, and he described that you have two buckets as a baby pilot. One of them is empty, which is your knowledge, and the other one is full, which is your bucket of luck, and you hope that your bucket of luck doesn't run out before your bucket of experience and knowledge fills up, which I thought was a fantastic analogy to have. Right, we'll level at 2,500 feet, there or thereabouts. I'll try and have some sort of airmanship about us with this. There's Draycott Water. I said level at 2,500 feet, not level at something near 2,500. I'm so out of practice, it's unbelievable. Just get the nose down a little bit. Right, so whilst I'm here, let me just use the rudders to keep ourselves straight. Let's just go over here. What are we on? Let's hold it there. 120. I want to hold it straight, so that's, what is that, 110. How far off are we? We're a good 10 degrees off down here. Get it back to 120-ish there. Yeah, that'll do. That's pretty good. We'll be okay with that. In the meantime, while I've faffed around with that, we've been climbing because I wasn't trimmed out properly. So let's make everybody airsick. Stick the nose down and make sure that the flaps are up because I was jabbering away. How awful is your flying today, Ricardo? It's absolutely horrendous. Right, our next heading is going to be 083 degrees from Draycott. So let's see how we're doing. We've gone past it. It's down here somewhere, isn't it? There it is. 083 it is. Try and get this thing trimmed. Bounces a little bit. It's quite sensitive in pitch. It's less sensitive in roll. So I can be quite vigorous with roll, but sensitive in pitch. It's really bouncy, and I don't know if that's... It's an X-Plane 12 thing that it kind of moves your viewpoints. If you look at the panel down here, as I pitch up and down, you can see the panel moves. Now it's a little bit off-putting in some respects because I'm trying to fly a reference for the... When you fly with visual references. So I'm trying to fly with a reference from my nose to the horizon. What I don't want is a big bouncy nonsense of a blancmange. That's a sim thing though. That's nothing to do with Thranda or Just Flight. It just does me head in. And there's no way to turn it off that I'm aware of. If there was, I would be turning it off straight away. Look at it, it's bouncing like a marshmallow. It's doing me head in. Right, we've dropped 150 feet. That's not very good airmanship. We're slightly off course. So let's bring ourselves back on again. And then what we'll do, actually we'll take the opportunity now. What we'll do is we'll assess our aircraft and its handling and see what we think. So, as I say, it's pretty stable, so that's hands off. I'll just tidy it up a little bit. You will see that it's stable in roll, weakly stable, but it is stable. You can see it's trying to lift its left wing back up. It's just doing it very slowly. If anything, it's maybe just stable, neutral. Let's try it round to the right. Yeah, it's fairly stable, to be honest. So the dihedral effect I would have expected to be slightly stronger than that. From memory, these things are flipping stable in the real world. Pitch stability I would expect to be quite strong, but we're expecting quite a long fugoid oscillation between nose down, nose up. So nose down, speed increases down here. As it increases, the nose rises. As the nose rises past its neutral point, speed drops off. As the speed drops off, and it would take about 2 or 3 oscillations for most aircraft, something like that, from memory. Don't shoot me if I'm wrong, but you can see it's doing that nicely. And then rudder, I would expect it to be strong in terms of rudder, as you can see, and it's just oscillating a little bit and it's settling itself down. So it's got all the right characteristics. It's stable in all the axes. The roll, if anything, I'd say is probably erring towards neutral, whereas I would have thought it would have been more positively stable than just neutral, although it is coming up a little bit there. So it might be that I had the rudder not quite balanced, but very nice. We'll do a quick stall. So got a clean aircraft, would do your hazel checks, can't be bothered because we're rocking and rolling. So let's bring the power off. We'd also do the carb heat, but hopefully we're not going to destroy our engine today. As I say, I'm using a Moser flight stick, so I can feel all the vibrations coming through from the turbulence over the wings, which is nice. There's the stall warner. Make sure the ball's in the centre so we don't promote a spin. And I just expect this to be fairly neutral. Aileron still has some effect. Yeah, this is just sinking in like a sinky thing. Let's just get some speed on. Re-establish a bit of a climb. How far did we drop there? We only dropped a couple of hundred feet. Put the first stage of flap out, and we'll do an approach in stall in approach configuration. So we'll leave a bit of power on, and just imagine we're stretching the glide, stretching the glide, stretching the glide. At this point, you'd be going, what the hell are you doing? No indications of a stall yet. No sounds, no turbulence. I'm getting it through the stick, but there's nothing showing on the aircraft. There we go. 50 knots. Let's keep pulling, assuming that we're being real idiots. See if it drops a wing. It tries to drop the left wing there, that's alright. Make sure we clean away the flaps so we don't overspeed the flaps. Yeah, it's pretty nice, pretty fun to play with. Let's go up and see if we can actually spin it. which fundamentally is quite a difficult thing in flight simulation to emulate, because the airflow with a spinning aircraft in real world is quite complex. And I was with an instructor in the Hawk, and we went to do a spin to the left, and the thing immediately flipped over and went into a right hand spin, and I didn't know which way was up. Fortunately, I was just a passenger at the time, although I was doing some training for navigation stuff. But yeah, that was quite an interesting experience. Wouldn't say that was enjoyable, but let's get a bit of height and let's see if we can just get some semblance of a spin out of this. Okay, 3,000 feet. You'd want higher, really. Right, make sure we're clean. You can see that as we change the power, the nose starts to move around on the aircraft, which is great. We'll bring it all the way through. Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling through the stall. Then once we're deep in, we'll kick full left rudder. Now, GA aircraft, because they have the engine in the nose, they tend to spin quite nose down, whereas a jet aircraft will tend to spin flatter. I wasn't sure whether it's spinning or going into a spiral dive there. But either way, it was a fairly docile entry, pretty easy to get out of. I feel that in real life it would probably be a bit more exciting than that. But I can't remember. I don't think I ever span a PA-28, because in general aviation in the UK, you didn't do spinning on the syllabus. You did everything else, but you didn't do spins. So they withdrew it. So you always did your training up to the point of incipient spin, i.e. just before you're about to spin. So in effect, what they did was they trained you to recognise the spin and avoid it. Which some would say is the best way to do it, others would maybe disagree with that, but that's how it was in the UK at the time. I don't know if it's changed, I very much doubt it. But there we go. So in terms of handling, it's very nice to fly, it's very predictable, it's very stable. I would say if you're relatively new to flight simming, it's a great thing to look at in terms of general aviation. It's just a fantastic thing. Right. We're climbing a bit too much. We've just got above 2,500. Just play with the pitch trim. Whilst that's sorting its life out, I'm just going to... Oh, that's not what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be zooming, but never mind. What's our heading at the minute then? What is it? 070080. Eh? What have we got? We're on 080. We're only a few degrees off here. Right. And I'll get to where I wanted to be. So, we're pretty stable there. We're higher than I wanted to be, so let's just do a couple of blips of nose down trim. I'm going to come down here, pop this on. What I wanted to be doing was changing the heading bug. We'll put that onto 080 and we will press heading. Click. And as I said before, it will control lateral navigation, whatever mode you happen to be in. You have to control climb and descent, which fundamentally you end up doing a lot of the time by just tweaking the trim. We'll help it out a little bit. We'll help it out quite a lot actually by just pushing the controls forward. But it's doing the lateral navigation now in terms of nav. And we'll just get it to try and behave in terms of pitch. Let's see how we get on. But that's essentially autopilot. You can navigate to a beacon, you can do VOR, you can do an ILS approach in terms of the lateral navigation, but it won't, to the best of my knowledge, it won't do an actual full VOR with vertical guidance, will it? Let's have a look. Oh, it will do the approach. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure about that. I think it'll be approach with lateral guidance only. I'd have to read up on that. I'm not sure because it doesn't seem to have any other vertical modes. So I'd have to read up on that. But never mind. Right. I'm on my merry way, 2,500 feet, 95 knots, heading off towards Kettering. And in fact, if I just bring us right a couple of degrees, we'll pop Kettering down the left-hand side. And then I've only got one significant leg after that. So this is Kettering here, and we're going to come across the southern tip of Kettering. We're looking for, on the map, we're looking for the south end of the town, which is obviously going to be about here, because you can see grass this side, built up area here. And we're looking for a road that runs almost horizontally across, and at that road there's a large park on the left, and the railway crosses, and we are looking at where the road and railway converge. This is the A14, is it? Not quite sure. I think it's the A14. A6. Yeah, A14. I think it's the A14. I'm not really familiar with this part of the world, but we're just going to come across here, which is the southern edge of Kettering, looking for the road to come in from the left. And it's times like this that you think, oh, this is really cool, but you've taken your eye, whilst you've been looking at the map, you've been taking your eye off the aircraft in terms of its behaviour. And it's dropped down 300 feet. Tusk, tusk, tusk. And it can sort its life out with the phugoid oscillations. Right, so here's one road, but the other road we're after comes around here, splits off and goes this way, and then the railway should be over here coming that way. Now railways are always pretty much straight lines that are straightforward to spot, says he. Looks like a road, there's a roundabout. Looking for the railway. This looks, does that look railway-ish? It's dead straight there, look. Bottom end of the town, so we're pretty much where we want to be. We're following this road out of town. So the A14 I think comes around here and then does this bend and comes out here this way. But I can't see the railway yet. Unless that's it there. That looks like it's got traffic on for a road. Oh no, is that a train? Yeah, it's a train. Super duper vision. So here we are. This is our train coming in here, our road. Pretty much where they meet is where we need to be, so we're pretty much on track. The next leg is a heading of 048 degrees for 33 miles. So I'll fly that, and I will see you towards Finland. So just as we're coming past Peterborough, we've only got about 10-15 miles or so towards we get to Finland. I'm just going to discuss a couple of things. The first thing is that I've just stuck it into Direct2 to see how far we've got to go to EGCL, which is Finland, and it's tracking really nicely. Now it comes up with heading and nav. If I take it out of heading, no, you need heading and nav to follow the nav. But that's absolutely fine. But you can see it's tracking the Direct2 perfectly, which is absolutely fine, which is nice to see. The other thing we're now going to discuss is how we're going to get down. We're going to do what's called a standard join, which is something that's quite common in the UK for general aviation, not necessarily used that much anywhere else. But we're going to come in on runway 18, so we're coming north to south on this line here. What we're going to do for a standard join is imagine that you haven't got radio communications with an airfield, or you've got limited radio communications, so it might be a information service as opposed to anything else. They may not necessarily be able to see every aircraft that's in the vicinity, particularly if you've got an airfield where non-radio aircraft are active. So in the UK we have a thing called a standard join. Now if we're coming in on 1.8, normally for this airfield it's right hand circuits here. So you'd come out round here, you'd come base, you'd turn back in, you'd come in land, take off, crosswind, and so on and so forth. This is at 1,000 feet at most airfields. Some it's 800, but most it's 1,000. I can't remember what it is for Finland. What you do for a standard join is you can't just join straight in the circuit because you don't know where everybody else is. So what you do is a standard join. So instead of joining a leg in the circuit, which is actually what you commonly do, what you can do is you do the standard join. And the standard join means that you overfly the threshold that you're going to land in at 90 degrees such that you can join a mirror of this. So you'll come across 1/8 threshold, then you'll do a descending turn, big arcing descending turn. So you come over at 2,000, so you're 1,000 feet above circuit altitude. Then you come round and you could do a big descending 180 turn to come across the upwind threshold at your circuit altitude. So you imagine you're going to land here. Instead of doing your normal circuit like that, you're going to come across here at 2,000, do a descending turn on the dead side to 1,000, come back across the upwind threshold into what is now a crosswind leg, and then fly the rest of your normal circuit downwind, base, and then back in. So that's what we're going to look at trying to do. We'll see how we get on with it. I've got a little bit of distance to go yet. What have we got? Just coming up to 7 miles, 8 miles. So I'll pop that to one side. That's pretty much what we're looking at doing. Make sure we haven't crashed into the ground. Oh, we've gained 100 feet. That'll do me. So Finland is notoriously difficult to see. Real life and in the sim. So it's one of the best, most accurate things I've ever known for the sim. It's just how difficult it is to see Finland. But Finland will be on the nose at about 7 miles. So we're talking about somewhere out here at this point. Now it's quite difficult to spot. But is that it? Have we got it already? That would be too good to be true, but no, we haven't got it. That's just a house. It was too good to be true, wasn't it? But how we're coming in at an angle where we're going to need to probably offset slightly to the left to get a good line of sight on the airfield for our right-hand circuits. Now ideally you'd want left-hand circuits, but we can't do left-hand because that's what the airfield are demanding, so that you keep away from the buildings basically. Let's see, can we just drop this range down a bit? Yeah, there we go. What range scale is that? That's 20 nautical miles, really? So it still thinks we've got 17 miles. I'm not convinced by that. 15 miles maybe? I'm not convinced by that when I look at ye olde little nav map. Yeah, that reckons we've got less than 7 miles. Going over a place called Crowland apparently at the moment. Somewhere underneath us. But we're motoring nicely in towards our airfield, and we can't really see it at the moment. That may well be it. Yeah, that's it. That's Finland there. Look. So here's 1836, and here's the cross-cut runway, and there's ditches along here, which means it would have been particularly bad if I'd gone off the end. As I say, I still had something in my pot of luck because I made such a poor decision that day. All pilots have those days where they've made a poor decision and then they get to the point of going, you know what, that's a really stupid thing, I'm never going to do that again. Right, let's take the autopilot out and we'll start to get ready to hand fly stuff, shall we? Blip, 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 blip. Okay. Let's just bring ourselves slightly around to the left, and we need to be down at 2,000 feet. Because I want to cut across there, as I say. 1,000 feet above circuit altitude, and cutting across. I want to be going directly east-west across the threshold, the landing threshold. So the first objective is get down to the height for the standard arrival. We're not in a rush to do it. But we do want to get down on the ground before we run out of daylight, fuel and interest. Right, so I'm still visual the field, it's just down here. That's what we're heading down towards. I'm going to put it out on the right hand side a bit now. And then we're going to look at levelling at 2000. I'm looking for that to be approximately on our 090 line, so that's a little bit further back from that. Coming down nicely to 2000. Don't want to go too low, we'll spook the locals. What I will do is I'll just boost myself up a little bit in the seat. And hopefully there it is. We're going to follow that little road so that we've got an aiming point. And we're going to keep just to the left of this little road which heads east-west. So there we go. I'm going to make sure we try not to descend because we don't know what other traffic there is for the airfield at the moment. And we're going to come around to 090. We're just going to dip the wing and see if we can see it. Didn't see it, did you? However, I suspect we are now, let's get back into our position, we're now in a position where we're on dead side so we can descend. And we'll start a big long arcing turn. We want to be on about 270 at 1,000 feet. And hopefully then, looking out to the right, we'll be able to see an airfield. That looks pretty much like our airfield, although I'm not entirely convinced. No, it's behind us there. There it is, just going under the right wing. Right, so this is now our crosswind leg. We'll try and fly it nice and accurately. We'll leave ourselves a little bit distance so that we're going to have a nice decent base leg. And bring it round to the right. Looking for 360, and we're going to hopefully have the airfield about a third of the way along our right wing. There it is. That's not too bad. I'll take that. And we're going to wait till that's in our rear 45. 100 feet too low. Maintaining 90 knots, that'll do me. We'll maintain this heading, try and get ourselves to our circuit altitude. I'm not sure if it was 1000 or 800, and we're waiting for that to go into our back 45. The buildings are a nice reference for this. Back up to 1000, but we don't want to go over the top. 90 knots will do nicely. Look where our airfield is. Right. And we'll go down now. Need to come down slightly quicker than that. There it is. Don't want to be going up. Blowing through the centre line, that's not a problem. Got all the flaps out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fly it so that this area here, just by the road, stays in the same position in my canopy. I'm going to use throttle to control altitude and pitch to control speed. So we're too high, so we're reducing power. In order to maintain the speed, we'll have to pitch forward, obviously. It's going down in the canopy, so let's slow down. It's not ideal to be coming in with such a low power setting. We'll start to flare. And then on the brakes, hopefully not skidding, not skidding, not skidding. I'm not a fan of that skiddy grass sound. Right, there we go. I didn't go off the end, that's always a bonus. Alright, let's just be the real rebels that we are, and we'll put the brake on. And then we'll just shut everything down. So, not going to go through all the stuff, but we will turn that off, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off. That's all good. Bring that off. They can go. And then let's turn these two bad boys off. Right, what do we think? Let's just jump outside to start with then. If I can. The joy of not having electrics in an aircraft for that. The handbrake flaps, forgot those. So the outside, it's very nicely modelled. It's not without flaws, but I think they've done a really good job. As I say, the aircraft for me is not all about the eye candy, but the eye candy is good. So I do like it. I do like, for example, the rippling effect here, the light on the panels, the slight wear and tear on the panels. I do like it. I think the exterior is very nice. There's a couple of areas in terms of texturing, so the undercarriage legs, where the wheel hubs are, etc. For me, that could be a little bit better, but I think overall it's really, really nice. The mud on the spats as well, for example, that's not, or on the legs down here, not entirely convinced by that. But the PBR texturing, the paintwork, everything's nice. A couple of areas where the text goes a bit fuzzy, but I think overall it's nice. It's good. I do like it. I think it's great. And as I say, there's 6 real world liveries that come with it, plus you've got the livery designer / painter that you can have a go at, so that's really good. Having a look on the inside, it's very well modelled. There's great textures. There's not a lot of interactive stuff within it, but for me that's not an issue. I know for other people that will be something, you know, oh, let's have a clickable ashtray. But for me, it's all about the experience of flying, and that's where X-Plane and this aircraft start to come into their own. It's a beautiful thing to fly. It flies pretty much like the real thing, from what I recall. It is over 15 years since I flew a PA-28, but they are beautifully stable aircraft. They're stable in pitch, in speed. I found the pitch trim to be a little bit bouncy, and the pitch overall to be a little bit bouncy, a little bit too sensitive, maybe. But, you know, having said that, it wasn't something that caused me any great difficulty. In terms of performance, it's pretty much what I remembered from flying these things. It's certainly, in terms of the technical data, they've obviously gone into the depth to get the numbers to match, but actually the physical hand flying experience of this is pretty good. It's a nice dynamic aircraft. It's stable, but it does need you to take, you know, keep your eye on the ball in terms of flying it. The autopilot is a Century autopilot. It's as basic as they come, really. Really nice bit of kit if you're happy to play with lower levels of technology. You do have the GNS 530 should you want it, and there are other options for nav kit as well. But I think this is a lovely little thing. I really do enjoy it. I've really enjoyed flying this thing around over the last day or two. It's been fantastic, really, really nice. Lovely looking thing, and as I say, I think value is in the mind of the person who's looking at it. You know, for some people they would want a little bit more for the money. For other people, they wouldn't want they're not bothered. This is perfectly within the price bracket they would expect and anticipate. So yeah, I think X-Plane does it justice. I think the handling's lovely. I think the flight dynamics are very, very nice. And it really does bring a few memories back for me flying these things. Had so much fun in them over the years that I really do rate them as an enjoyable aircraft. They're not the most sporty things in the world, but they are really good fun. Any aviation, to be fair, is really good fun at the end of the day. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. As I say, this is the release product, unless there's big changes. So it's not really a review as such from me. It's more a first look that I've done in the style of a review. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And again, many thanks to Just Flight for allowing me to have a copy so that I could have a look at it. Hugely appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.